Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Gabe with Indigo Software, genuine Microsoft software for less. In today's video, we're taking you guys through an entire practice exam for the CompTIA 220-1102, otherwise known as Core 2 exam. This will be a pretty long video as we're going through all 90 questions of the practice exam. In addition to answering the questions, we will also cover the explanation for each question right after we answer it. If you haven't seen our Core 1 version of this video, feel free to watch that right here. Before we get started with this video, if you guys are interested in purchasing Microsoft Office, Windows 10, Windows 11, remote desktop licenses, or a wide variety of other Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll leave links down below. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, we are inside of the practice test, and let's go ahead and get started with question 1. A help desk team lead contacts a systems administrator because the technicians are unable to log into a Linux server that is used to access tools. When the administrator tries to use remote desktop to log into the server, the administrator sees the GUI is crashing. Which of the following methods can the administrator use to troubleshoot the server effectively? All right, I believe the answer to this question is B, SSH. Let's go ahead and check our answer. All right. That is correct. And let's take a look at the explanation. So SSH, otherwise known as Secure Shell, is a protocol that provides a secure way to access and manage a remote server over a network. It's commonly used for command line access to Linux servers. So if you can remember that Secure Shell is commonly used, with Linux servers, that's pretty much the key to getting this question correct. And then we could take a brief overview at the other options here. All right, let's go to the next question. A company wants to remove information from past users' hard drives in order to reuse the hard drives. Which of the following is the most secure method? So one thing that can help as we're answering these CompTIA questions is they kind of have their own language. We're looking for sometimes not what would be the only option, but what's the best option. And so in this case, the most secure method, let's take a look. We have reinstalling Windows. That's not going to be very applicable here. Performing a quick format. We know that that's not going to be the answer because there's basically ways to retrieve files that have been formatted from drives. We have a disk wiping software, and we have deleting all files from command line interface. So I think the best option here is using disk wiping software. Let's go ahead and check. All right, that one was correct as well. And for the explanation, using disk wiping software is designed to securely erase the data on a hard drive by overwriting it with random patterns or zeros. This process makes it difficult or impossible to recover the original data using data recovery tools. It provides a more secure method compared to other options. And just to reiterate, so again, reinstalling the operating system will not completely remove all the data, and neither will a quick format, and neither will command line interface. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Which of the following can you type in the Start menu in Windows to open a command prompt? Choose 2. One thing that kind of throws me off here, just make sure that you guys pay attention to if it's asking for, choose 1 or more or choose 2. It's easy to just click 1 and be like, oh, that's the answer. But in this case, it's actually CMD and command. All right, so for the explanation, CMD in the search bar or command, less commonly used, will open the command prompt in Windows. All right, let's go to the next question. You've just purchased a new printer for your computer and you want to set it up and start using it. However, your operating system does not automatically recognize the printer. Which part of the operating system would require extremely specific software written for the purpose of instructing the operating system on how to access the printer? And this is pretty common. You guys have probably used this before. And the answer here is going to be driver. So driver is pretty much this definition. Let's check the answer for the explanation. So again, it's a specific type of software written to enable communication between the operating system and a particular hardware device. All right, we'll leave this on for a few seconds and then we'll go to the next question. Which Microsoft Windows 10 edition or editions provides the option to join a domain? When it comes to the Windows 10 or Windows 11, usually we're going to have most or all of the functionality in the Pro and Enterprise versions, but not the Home editions. So in this case, we're going to select all except for Home, right? And that was correct. And again, Windows Home does not support joining a domain. It's more suitable for individual users or small home networks. A user is having phone issues after installing a new app that claims to optimize performance. The user downloaded the application directly from the vendor's website and is now experiencing high network utilization and is receiving repeated security warnings. Which of the following should the technician perform first to mitigate the issue? All right, so we have reset the phone to factory settings. We have uninstall the fraudulent application. We have increase the data plan limits or disable the mobile hotspot. All right, so I think the first and most obvious step, it says here that they experience the issues after installing a new application. And so it seems to me like the best first step would be to uninstall this application. Let's check. Yep. All right, so again, it's kind of just reiterating what I said here. The application is downloaded from the vendor's website, and the symptoms, such as high network utilization and repeated security warnings, suggest that the app might be malicious or unwanted. So the first step is to uninstall this application. And we can do this through the phone settings or application manager. All right, and then we can take a quick look at the incorrect options. I'll leave this up for a few seconds. All right, let's move on to the next question. A change advisory board just approved a change request. Which of the following is most likely step in the change process? Oh, sorry, I missed it says most likely next step in the change process. So if the board just approved a change request, then the next step would basically be the end user acceptance. And I believe it's going to show us all the steps here. So, yep, we have request forms, purpose of change, scope of the change, and then we have date and time of the change, effective systems, impact, risk analysis, change board approval, which is what it was asking us about, and then finally the end user acceptance. I'll leave this up for a couple seconds for y'all to read it if you'd like to. All right, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is the physical memory limit for all 32-bit editions of Windows 10? So we know 32-bit in general is fairly limited when compared to 64-bit systems. This one is just kind of a memory thing, but I believe the correct answer here is 2 gigabytes. Oh, sorry guys, I got that incorrect. The correct answer is 4 gigabytes, and this limitation is a result of the 32-bit architecture. Which of the following only has a web browser interface? This one is kind of in the name, and that is actually going to be Chromium. All right, so Chromium, again, is an operating system that only has a web browser interface. It's an open source project that provides the source code and framework for Chrome OS, which is a Linux-based operating system developed by Google. Chromium and Chrome OS are designed to run web applications and cloud services through the Chrome web browser, which is the only user interface available on the system. Chromium and Chrome OS are mainly used on devices such as Chromebooks, Chromeboxes, and Chromebits. I'll leave this up for a few extra seconds if you guys want to read through the rest. All right, let's move on to the next question. You're using a virtual machine to simulate a production environment for testing purposes. You need to install a specific program on the VM to replicate the functionality of a critical application. Which of the following installation methods would you use to install the program on the virtual machine? All right, so we have zip files, optical disk, USB, or ISO. ISO is also known as a disk image file, and I believe that's the correct answer here. Yes, so if you wanted to install a program on a VM, the preferred method would be to mount an ISO image of the application. USB and optical disks are not common installation methods for VMs. And although zip files could be used, a zip file is only a compression method and not a delivery method. Okay, let's move on to the next question. You are organizing your files on your Windows computer and need to perform various tasks using the File Explorer program. Choose all the actions you can accomplish using the File Explorer program. All right, and for this, I believe it's just going to be changing file attributes and copying and moving files. Let's check. Yep. Okay. So we got that correct, and we can kind of just browse through the explanations here. Let's check the incorrect one. So creating backup jobs is not a direct functionality for the Windows File Explorer program. While users can manually copy file for backup purposes, creating automatic backup jobs typically requires more specialized software. And obviously browsing the internet is not a feature of this either. This is a file management tool and is not designed for web browsing tasks. Let's go to the next question. You are considering upgrading your operating system to Microsoft Windows 10 and need to ensure that the BitLocker drive encryption feature is available. Determine which editions of Windows 10 include or includes BitLocker drive encryption feature. select all that apply. All right. Basically the same thing as the one that we just did a little bit ago. We should have encryption, the BitLocker encryption on everything except for the home edition. And again, that is correct. So we're not getting access to BitLocker on the home edition of Windows 10. Which of the answers listed below refers to Windows command line commands used for directory traversal? This one is going to be CD, otherwise known as change directory. So let's check the answer. Yep, so change directory, this command is used to change the current working directory in the command prompt. And then dir command is used to display a list of files and subdirectories in the current directory. And then pwd is not a native Windows command. This is on Linux systems. And then we have path, and the path command is used to display or set the command search path. All right, let's go to the next question. A user is being directed by the help desk to look up a Windows PC's network name, so the help desk can use a remote administration tool to assist the user. Which of the following commands would allow the user to give the technician the correct information? All right, and this one is a little bit trickier for me to remember. I believe it's netstat and ipconfig all. I believe those are the two correct answers. Let's see if I'm right. Okay, so sorry guys, it was actually hostname. So hostname and ipconfig/all are correct. So the hostname command specifically displays the network name of the Windows PC. Running this command will allow the user to quickly retrieve the information needed by the help desk for remote admin. And then ipconfig all basically gives us all the information about the network configuration of the Windows PC, including the host name. All right, and the netstat command is used to display information about network connections, routing tables, and interface statistics, but it's not giving us the network name or the name of the PC. So not the correct command here. I'll leave up the other commands if you guys want to check those out. All right, let's move on to the next question. What is the name of a Windows command prompt utility that can be used to display TCP IP configuration settings? This one's going to be ipconfig. All right, so ipconfig command provides information about the IP configuration for all network interfaces on the system, including IP addresses, subnet masks, default gateways, and more. It is a commonly used command for troubleshooting network connectivity issues in Windows. I'll leave up the incorrect answers for a moment. All right, let's head to the next question. A user calls the help desk to report that none of the files on a PC will open. The user also indicates a program on the desktop is requesting payment in exchange for file access. A technician verifies the user's PC is infected with ransomware. Which of the following should the technician do first? Now, the very first thing that we would want to do in this case is to disconnect the PC from the network, and their language for this is to quarantine the system. So when dealing with a ransomware infection, the first step is to quarantine the affected system, and this prevents malware from spreading to other networked devices. So basically, we isolate the infected computer to contain the threat. Disabling network connectivity or physically disconnecting the affected system from the network can help to prevent further damage and the potential spread of the ransomware to other devices. All right, and then after that, we would scan and remove the malware. Then we would schedule automated malware scans, and then we would disable system restore. All right, let's go to the next question. A company is issuing smartphone to employees and needs to ensure data is secure if the devices are lost or stolen. Which of the following provides the best solution? So anti-malware is not really applicable here or relevant. Remote wipe, that is a pretty good option. Locator applications, that could help. Screen lock, that could help. So these two may be deterrents or may be helpful, but remote wipe is the best solution because that is the best way to secure data in the event of loss or theft. All right, and then I'll leave up this explanation for a couple minutes if you guys want to read through that. All right, a user reports seeing random, seemingly non-malicious advertisement notifications in the Windows 10 Action Center. The notifications indicate that the advertisements are coming from a web browser. Which of the following is the best solution for the technician to implement? All right, so in this case, we would want to basically run a full antivirus scan. I believe that's the best option here. Let's check the answer. Okay, so this is correct. This would be the best solution for the technician to implement in this case. While advertisements may not appear malicious, they could potentially be a part of an adware or spyware program that is running on the computer. So a full antivirus scan will help detect and remove any malicious software that might be causing the unwanted notifications. All right, let's move on to the next question. After clicking a link in an email, a CFO received the following error. And we can see here that it says the security certificate presented by this website was not issued by a trusted certificate authority. The CFO reported the incident to a technician. The link is purportedly to the organization's bank. Which of the following should the technician perform first? All right, and again, the first step here, in general, the first steps are going to be like, what's the safest option? And I believe it's to instruct the CFO to exit the browser. All right, so that is correct. And again, we want to do that because it may have led to a malicious website or phishing attempt. And in these cases, it's important to immediately close the browser to prevent any potential harm to the computer or the network. And after the browser is closed, the technician can proceed with further investigation and steps to address the issue, such as updating the CRLs to ensure that the browser can detect and block certificates that have been revoked by the certificate authority. However, this step should only be taken after the immediate threat has been dealt with. A help desk technician is troubleshooting a workstation in a SOHO, otherwise known as small office home office, environment that is running above normal system baselines. The technician discovers an unknown executable with a random string name running on the system. The technician terminates the process, and then the system returns to normal operation. The technician thinks the issue was an infected file, but the antivirus is not detecting a threat. The technician is concerned that other machines may be infected with this unknown virus. Which of the following is the most effective way to check that the other machines on the network for this unknown threat? All right, and then this is going to be to provide a sample to the antivirus vendor. All right, by providing a sample of the unknown executable to the antivirus vendor, you enable them to analyze the file, identify the threat, and update their antivirus definitions. This allows the antivirus software on the other machines to detect and remove the threat, protecting the entire network. What is the term for a program that utilizes menus or graphical interfaces on top of an operating system to enable users to issue commands? And this is how we describe a shell. So a shell is a program that provides the user with an interface to interact with the operating system or execute commands. It can be a command line interface or a graphical user interface. The shell interprets the commands entered by the user and communicates with the operating system to execute those commands. I'll leave up the rest of the explanation for just a moment. All right, question 22. If a program doesn't have a shortcut on the desktop or in the All Apps submenu, you can start it by which of the following methods? All right, and the answer here is typing the program name in the start box. All right, so you can often start a program by typing its name directly into the start menu or the search box, and this method allows you to quickly locate and launch apps without needing a desktop shortcut. We'll leave up the other answers here for just a second. All right, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following command line displays the name of the current computer a user is connected to? And as we learned from earlier, this one is hostname. All right, and here we can see what the various commands do. So hostname is a command line utility in various operating systems. And when we run this, it returns the name of the host or computer. The host or computer name is a label assigned to a device on a network, and it helps identify the device within the network. And the other options explained here. I'll leave this up for just a moment. All right, next question. Netstat is a command line utility used for, I believe the two correct answers here are displaying active TCP IP connections. And I think it's also displaying network protocol statistics. Let's see if I got this one right. Yes, so that is correct. We can view the explanations for all of the answers, but let's just take a look at the overall explanation. So the netstat command is a network utility tool that provides information about network connections, listening ports, routing tables, and network statistics on a computer. It helps users troubleshoot network issues, identify active connections, and monitor network activity. The command is used in the command line interface, or CLI, to gather insights into a system's network configuration and performance. Which operating system feature offers the ability for a single application to have multiple requests into the processor at the same time? So this one is kind of in the name. The answer is multi-threading. And I remember this by the fact that processors have multiple threads oftentimes. Let's check it out. All right, so again, this is an operational system feature that allows a single application to have multiple threads of execution running concurrently. And this enables parallel processing and It improves overall performance by utilizing multiple processor cores efficiently. All right, and I'll leave this up for just a few seconds. All right, let's go to the next question. In Windows, a deleted file can be retrieved using which of the following? This one's pretty straightforward. This is going to be the recycle bin. All right, let's move on to the next question. A laptop user is visually impaired and requires a different color cursor. Which of the following OS utilities is used to change the color of the cursor? All right, so this one is going to be found inside of our settings. I believe sometimes it's in the personalization settings, but the setting itself is called the Ease of Access Center. And that's going to allow us to change the color of the mouse cursor along with other accessibility options. All right, and just to reiterate, so this provides us with accessibility options, and we're going to have things like keyboard settings and touchpad settings as well. I'll leave this up for just a few seconds. All right, question 28. A technician arrives on site to find that the two users who have the same model on Android smartphone are having the same issue with a specific application. Whenever they attempt to launch the application, it fails and gives an error message. Which of the following should the technician do first? All right, so for this one, I believe the best answer would be to roll back the application to an earlier version. All right, that's actually not the correct answer here. So let's take a look. The correct answer is update the app and OS of the smartphones. All right, and here we can see that that's the recommended first step because it can address compatibility issues, security vulnerabilities, and bug fixes that may be causing the app to fail. First, clear the application cache, since this is locally stored information that can become glitchy and cause an app to crash. If you have two of the same smartphones having the same issue, it's unlikely to be the cache causing the issue. And in this case, the technician would then attempt to update the OS of the smartphones. Updating the operating system can minimize the compatibility issues and fix crashing applications. And third, you can try reinstalling the app if the other two options don't work. A technician is working on a Windows 10 PC that is running slowly. Which of the following commands should the technician use to correct the issue? All right, so if we're thinking about a Windows PC running slowly, the first thing we might consider is the disk, so the hard drive or the SSD. And the commands that we can use to address that would be check disk and disk part. So let's check my answer. Okay, sorry guys, I missed that one as well. The other answer was supposed to be DISM. Okay, so the deployment image service and management tool can be used to repair the Windows image, which includes features like Windows Update. And running this with appropriate options can help fix issues related to the Windows image. And disk part, the one that I chose, is a disk management tool that allows you to create, delete, and manage partitions on a disk. And so this is a more advanced tool for disk-related operations. I'll leave this up for a few extra seconds. A user is attempting to make a purchase at a store using a phone. The user places the phone on the payment pad, but the device does not recognize the phone. The user attempts to restart the phone, but still has the same results. Which of the following should the user do to resolve the issue? So we're using something called NFC in this case, and so verifying that the NFC is enabled would be our first step. All right, I'll leave this up for just a few minutes if you guys want to read this. All right, let's move on to the next question. A small business owner wants to install newly purchased software on all networked PCs. The network is not configured as a domain, and the owner wants to use the easiest method possible. Which of the following is the most efficient way for the owner to install the application? Now, I'm not sure if it's asking what's the least effective way here or what's the most efficient way. I'm not sure if it's a typo. I'm just going to go with what I think. Okay, so if it's asking the most deficient way, or basically the worst way, but this would be manually installing everything on each PC. And so that answer is B. Let's see if that's right. Okay, yeah, so it was not a typo. It looks like this would be the most inefficient method for a small business owner. This method requires manual intervention on each PC, and there's a higher risk of error or inconsistencies between PCs. And additionally, if the software needs to be updated or reinstalled in the future, this process would need to be repeated on each PC. What's the difference between a virtual machine and an emulator? So I believe the correct answer is B, and that is that an emulator converts commands to and from a host machine to an entirely different platform, whereas a virtual machine creates an environment based on the host machine and does no converting. All right, and the overall explanation here, an emulator converts from one platform to another, whereas virtual machine mirrors the host machine. All right, let's move on to the next question. A technician is troubleshooting a customer's PC and receives a phone call. The technician does not take the call and sets the phone to silent. Which of the following best describes the technician's actions? This one here is pretty self-explanatory. We want them to avoid distractions, and so that is the correct answer. The technician has taken appropriate action by not taking the call and setting the phone to silent in order to avoid any distractions and remain focused on the task at hand. This is a good example of how to maintain focus and productivity when working on customers' PC and will help ensure that the job is completed in a timely and efficient manner. A user reports that a workstation is operating sluggishly. Several other users operate on the same workstation and have reported that the workstation is operating normally. The systems administrator has validated that the workstation functions normally. Which of the following steps should the systems administrator most likely attempt next? So we have a clue here, and it's basically telling us that other users are good, but this user is not. And so the most likely answer, based on what I'm seeing, is to rebuild the user's profile. All right, so that one was correct. And let's take a look at the overall explanation. Since the systems administrator has validated that the workstation functions normally and the other users operate on the same workstation without any issues, the next step should be to rebuild the user's profile. This will ensure that any corrupted files or settings are removed and the user's profile is restored to its default state. What can device drivers on a failing hardware in macOS and Linux cause? Correct answer here is kernel panic. All right, so here we can have a look at the spinning windmill. This is a loading indicator. Typically, we have the blue screen of death, and this is a system error in Windows, not Mac or Linux. Then we have kernel panic, and this is a term used to describe a system error in Mac or Linux operating systems, and it occurs when the operating system detects a fatal error that it cannot recover from, often caused by issues with device drivers or failing hardware. Okay, and then terminal emulation is a process that allows a computer terminal to emulate another type of terminal. This is not directly related. All right, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is the correct net syntax for discovering which network shares on a particular server are mapped on your computer? Okay, I believe the answer here is netview. Yes, that is correct. So here we have the overall explanation. The correct syntax for discovering which network shares on a particular server are mapped on your computer using the net command is netview, and then we have 2 backslashes and file server. Which technology allows 802.11 networks to make multiple simultaneous connections and thus improve speeds over previous Wi-Fi standards? The correct answer is MIMO, and MIMO is going to stand for multiple input and multiple output technology. All right, so the overall explanation, the multiple input output or MIMO technology implementing multiple antennas enables 802.11n networks to run at much faster speeds than previous Wi-Fi networks. You can take a look at the other explanations if you'd like. Let's go ahead and move on. Which hardware firewall feature enables incoming traffic on a specific port to reach an IP address on the LAN? Now this one is kind of in the name as well. So we have incoming traffic and we want this to reach an IP address on the local area network. So the correct answer is port forwarding. Yep, so here we go. Port forwarding is a hardware firewall feature that allows incoming traffic on a specific port to be directed to a designated IP address on the LAN. This feature is commonly used to expose services or applications on a specific device within the internal network to external users over the internet. By configuring port forwarding rules, traffic arriving at a specific port on the external side of the firewall is forwarded to a predefined IP address and port on the internal networks. This enables external users to access services such as web servers or gaming servers hosted on devices within LAN. I'll leave it up for a few seconds if you guys want to read the other options. To turn off a Windows 10 or 11 operating system gracefully, you should do which of the following? This one, we want to select start and then the power icon and then choose shutdown. All right, next question. In Windows, a quick way to access help is to press which keyboard key. We simply just have to remember that this is typically F1. A manager reports that staff members often forget the passwords on their mobile devices and applications. Which of the following should the administrator do to reduce the number of help desk tickets submitted? The best answer here is going to be implement a single sign-on with biometrics. All right, so to reduce the overall number of help desk tickets related to forgotten passwords, the administrator should implement a single sign-on with biometrics. This basically allows users to access multiple applications with a single set of credentials and this reduces the need to remember multiple passwords for different systems. And biometrics such as fingerprints or facial recognition can enhance the authentication process and provide a convenient and secure way for users to access their devices and applications. This approach can improve user experience and reduce password-related issues. A technician suspects a rootkit has been installed and needs to be removed. Which of the following would best resolve the issue? So rootkits are known as some of the more difficult malwares to detect and remove. I believe the answer here is OS reinstallation, although I'm not positive, so let's check. Okay, so according to CompTIA, anti-malware software is going to be our best answer here. And rootkits are a type of malicious software designed to hide their existence in the existence of other malware on systems. Anti-malware software is specifically designed to detect and remove various types of malicious software, including rootkits. Running a thorough scan using reputable anti-malware tools is an effective method to identify and remove rootkits from a system. Okay, I'll leave this up for a few seconds. All right, let's go to the next question. A technician is troubleshooting an issue involving programs on Windows 10 machine that are loading on startup but causing excessive boot times. Which of the following should the technician do to selectively prevent programs from loading? Okay, so I'm looking at the two bottom answers here, and I don't think we want to manually disable all startup tasks. So I believe the correct answer is to open the startup tab and methodically disable items. Let's check that. And yes, that is correct. So open the startup tab and methodically disable items currently listed as enabled and reboot. Checking for issue resolution at each startup would be the best solution for the technician to selectively prevent programs from loading at startup. This option allows the technician to easily see which programs are causing excessive boot times and selectively disable them. Right-clicking the Windows button and entering shell startup and moving items one by one to the recycle bin could be time-consuming and potentially cause issues if important system files are deleted. Remark out entries listed in the registry could be risky because it may cause issues if the wrong entries are modified. Manually disabling all startup tasks currently listed as enabled and rebooting may not be efficient and could potentially disable some important processes. For a newly added storage drive, this command line tool allows to configure it with a file system, enabling Windows to store information on the drive. Now, this is pretty much what it sounds like. The correct answer here is format. The format command in Windows is used to create a new file system on a storage drive, allowing Windows to store information on the drive. This command prepares the disk for use by creating a file system such as NTFS or FAT32 and performs a high-level format. I'll leave this up for just a moment. All right, next question. Which of the command prompt commands listed below allows for updating multiple group policy settings in Microsoft Windows? And this one is kind of in the name, group policy and update. It's asking us about updating. So the answer is actually GP update or group policy update. Let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is the minimum amount of RAM needed to install a 64-bit version of Windows 10? Okay, I think this is why I thought that answer earlier was 2 gigabytes, because the answer to this question is 2 gigabytes. All right, and below it's telling us Windows 10 64-bit requires a minimum of 2 gigs RAM. Which of the following tools enables you to find out how much memory a particular application is using? And we can find this out in the Task Manager. Task Manager enables you, via a click of the Processes tab, to view all current running processes and see how much memory each is using. And we can open this by clicking the taskbar and selecting it, or by going to Run and typing Task MGR, or we could also press Control Shift Escape or Control Alt Delete and selecting Task Manager. I'll leave this up for a few seconds. All right, let's move on. Which of the following features is used to both start and stop services? Select the two best answers. That's nice that we just got a question about the Task Manager. So these two are going to be a Computer Management and Task Manager. All right, so we can start, stop, and restart services within Computer Management, Services, and Applications and Services. From there, we can right-click the service in question and configure it as we want. And we can also open services by going to the Run prompt and typing in services.msc. And of course, we can do this in the Task Manager as well. And we can analyze performance in the Task Manager, such as the CPU, RAM, and networking connections. Which of the following user account permissions are needed to install device drivers on Windows? The explanation here says that installing Device drivers typically requires elevated privileges, and the administrator account has the necessary permissions to perform such tasks. I'll leave this up for just a minute. Which of the following commands creates a new directory in the Windows command prompt? This one is going to be MD, otherwise known as make directory. So just kind of remembering that the M stands for make. Let's move on to the next question. Which of the following commands is entered at the command prompt to learn more about the dir command? And here we're going to select the two best answers. And I believe it's dir help and then dir / question mark. I believe those are the two. Oh, sorry guys, I had that one backwards. So it's help and then dir, or dir and then the slash and question mark. If we want to learn more about any command in Windows, we could type the command /? or type help dir. All right, let's move on to the next question. A customer's computer is using FAT32. Which file system can you upgrade it to when using the convert command? All right, and I believe the correct answer is NTFS. Yep, so NTFS, the convert command in Windows would allow us to change from a FAT32 file system to NTFS without losing data. ext4 is a file system commonly used in Linux-based operating systems. exFAT is a file system designed for flash drives and other removable storage devices. So it's more suitable for handling large files and is supported by both Windows and Mac. However, the convert command to change a FAT32 file system to exFAT is not a supported conversion. And then NFS is a network file system protocol commonly used in Unix and Linux environments for sharing files and directories over a network. Which of the following can be used to keep hard drives free of errors and ensure that Windows runs efficiently? Select the two best answers. For this one, we're focusing on hard drive, and the two that we could apply to hard drives are disk defragmenter and check disk. All right, so disk defragmenter keeps Windows running more efficiently by making files contiguous, lowering the amount of physical work the drive has to do. And then check disk checks the hard drive for errors. Okay, and then this one is actually pretty easy. I just remember this because it's again in the name, and that's setup_err.log. So the log file that contains information about Windows setup errors is setup_err.log. And this is a file that's generated during the Windows setup process, and it contains information about any errors that occurred during the install. It can be found in the Windows setup directory. I'll leave this on for a few extra seconds. Which of the following represents the RAM limitation of Windows 8.1 Pro 64-bit? And I believe for this, it's a little tricky to remember all of these things, but I think it's 512. Yeah. So the physical memory limit of Windows 8.1 Pro is 512 gigabytes on a 64-bit system. That is also the RAM limit for 8.1 Enterprise. However, the standard can only access 128 gigs of RAM. Even though 64-bit CPUs can address realistic maximum of 256 terabytes, software is usually far more limited. A customer's device manager shows an arrow pointing down over one of the devices. What does this tell you? This is telling us that the device is disabled. And in many cases, we can easily enable it by right-clicking and selecting Enable. Which of the following is not an advantage of NTFS over FAT32? Okay, so I believe that this one is more file formats. Let's check. Okay, so NTFS and FAT32 support the same number of file formats. This is actually the only listed similarity between the two. And the keyword here was not in the question. A coworker just installed a second hard drive in his Windows computer. However, he does not see the drive in File Explorer. What did he forget to do? Select the best three answers. All right, so here we have initialize the drive, and then we would want to partition and format the drive as well. So these are some necessary steps when installing a new hard drive in a Windows computer. All right, again, for secondary drives, we must go to disk management and initialize, partition, and format them. Explorer in the question can mean File Explorer, Windows 10, or Windows Explorer, Windows 7. fdisk is an older DOS command, and today's computers, UEFI and BIOS, should see the drive automatically without configuration needed. How would you create a restore point in Windows? And this would be running the system restore program from system properties. Again, this is a tool that is used to create system restore points. In all versions of Windows, we can find this within the search utility or by going to control panel and all control panel icons, system, and then clicking system protection link. All right, let's go to the next question. Which of the following tasks cannot be performed from the printer properties screen? And this answer is pausing printing. So to pause printing in general, and pause individual documents, double-click on the printer in question and make modifications from the ensuing window. Which of the following is an example of social engineering? The correct answer here is asking for a username and password over the phone. So social engineering is the practice of obtaining confidential information by manipulating people. Asking for a username and password over the phone is a type of phishing attack known as vishing. Where are software-based firewalls most commonly implemented? The answer to this is going to be on clients. Software-based firewalls, such as Windows Defender Firewall, normally run on client computers. It is possible that software-based firewalls will run on servers, especially if the server is acting as a network firewall, but the servers might rely on hardware-based network firewall or IPS solution. Hardware-based firewalls are also found in multifunction network devices. Some people might refer to these devices as routers, but the router functionality is really just one of the roles of the multifunction network device, separate from the firewall role. Plus, higher-end routers for larger networks are usually not combined with firewall functionality. Switches don't employ software firewalls, mainly because they don't use software for the most part. Making data appear as if it was coming from somewhere other than its original source is known as which of the following terms? The answer to this question is spoofing. Here we have some explanation on these terms. So spoofing is where an attacker creates fake data to deceive systems or users. This can involve forging the source address of network packets, creating fake emails, or manipulating caller ID information in voice communications. We have impersonation. This involves pretending to be somebody else. And then phishing is a type of cyber attack where the attackers use deceptive emails, websites, or messages to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information. 0-day refers to a software vulnerability that is unknown to the vendor or the public. Exploiting a 0-day vulnerability can be part of a cyber attack, but is not specifically related to making data appear from a different source. A fingerprint reader is known as which type of security technology? And this is biometrics, as we learned earlier. I'll leave this up for a few seconds. Which shortcut key combination immediately locks Windows? That would be Windows key with L. All right, and Control-Alt-Delete opens the Windows security screen. Windows R opens the run box. Windows M minimizes all windows and shows desktop. And Windows L, again, was our answer, which is a quick way to lock the computer. Which of the following terms refers to when people are manipulated into giving access to network resources? As we just learned, that one is called social engineering. All right, so again, we have some explanations here. Shoulder surfing refers to the act of obtaining information by looking over somebody's shoulder while they're entering it. Social engineering is the correct term when individuals are manipulated or deceived into providing access to network resources. This is going to involve psychological manipulation to trick people into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. Phishing is where the attackers send fraudulent emails to try to trick individuals into releasing passwords or financial details. Spear phishing is a targeted form of phishing where the attackers customize their message specific to individuals or organizations to increase their likelihood of success. A customer's Windows computer needs a new, larger, faster hard drive. Another technician in your company installs the drive and then formats the old drive before delivering it to you for disposal. How secure is the customer's data? And in this case, it is very insecure. The data is very insecure. Many tools can recover data from a drive after it's formatted. Some companies will low-level format the drive or sanitize the drive, as opposed to standard format in Windows, for example, and keep it in storage indefinitely. The organization might go further and use data wiping software. In fact, this might be a policy for the organization. Always check your organization's policies to be sure that you are disposing or recycling of hard drives properly. Which protocol encrypts transactions through a website? This is going to be SSL, otherwise known as Secure Sockets Layer. I'll read this up if you guys want to read through the different protocols. A coworker downloads a game that ends up stealing information from the computer system. What is this known as? So this is actually known as a Trojan. So a Trojan is a malicious software disguised as a legitimate software. In this case, the game is presented as harmless or entertaining, but it contains hidden malicious functionality. Trojans can perform various malicious activities such as stealing information, damaging files, or providing unauthorized access to the system. I'll leave this up for just a minute. Which of the following is an open source operating system? And the only one here is Android. Which of the following is the second step of the A+ troubleshooting theory? So we went over this earlier. We want to first identify the problem, and then we want to establish a probable cause. You're looking for the most obvious or probable cause for the problem. Let's move on to the next question. You successfully modified the registry on a customer's PC. Now the customer's system gets into the internet normally. Which of the following steps should be performed next? And again, based on our steps that we want to take, this is document your solution. We always want to document. And again, this is the final step in the troubleshooting theory. This is going to help us better understand and articulate exactly what the problem and solution was. If you see this problem again in the future, you can consult your documentation for the solution. Plus, others on your team can do the same, and it is common company policy to document all findings as a part of a troubleshooting ticket. Jack gets an error that says error log full. Where should you go to clear his error log? The correct answer here is the Event Viewer. Event Viewer is a Windows tool that allows you to view detailed information about system events, including error message. The error log mentioned in the question is likely part of the Windows event log. To clear the logs in Event Viewer, follow these general steps. I'll leave this up for a few minutes. The SFC command prompt utility in Windows scans the integrity of all protected system files and replaces incorrect versions with correct Microsoft versions. I'll leave this up if you guys want to read it. Security software was accidentally uninstalled from all servers in the environment. After requesting the same version of the software be reinstalled, the analyst learns that a change request will need to be filled out. Which of the following is the best reason to follow the change management process in this scenario? And this one's going to be so that the owners can be notified a change is being made and monitor it for performance impact. Okay, so the explanation for this one, change management involves notifying relevant stakeholders, and in this case, notifying owners allows them to be aware of the change. Owners are typically responsible for the system affected by the change, and their awareness is crucial. Notifying owners enables them to monitor the change for any potential performance impact. This is important for maintaining the stability and security of the systems. These other options here are not as directly related to the specific scenario or are not as critical. What should be periodically done with mechanical hard drives to speed up performance when launching and saving files? And the answer to that is defragment, as we learned earlier. The mechanical hard drive should be periodically defragmented to arrange concurrent blocks of storage of files so that the hard drive arm does not need to move much when reading and writing files. SSDs do not suffer from poor performance from fragmentation because they have no moving parts. Freeing up space and emptying the recycle bin are good ideas, but do not contribute to the hard drive's performance. Trim is a feature used with SSD drives where the operating system notifies the SSD device that data blocks have been freed up. You have a number of files with a .des extension and you want to be able to search each file's metadata. Which applet should this be configured in? And this one is the Indexing Options applet. The Indexing Options applet allows you to configure custom extensions so that metadata can be searched. The Internet Options applet is used to configure Internet Explorer. The File Explorer Options applet is used to view and configure the File Explorer. And the Ease of Access Center applet is used to configure options related to user disabilities to make the operating system easier to use. Which of the following registry hives contain information about the computer's hardware? And this one is going to be local machine, HKey local machine. A small office's wireless network was compromised recently by an attacker who brute forced a PIN to gain access. The attacker then modified the DNS settings on the router and spread malware to the entire network. Which of the following configurations most likely allowed the attack to take place? Here we have default login, and I believe the other one is outdated firmware. Sorry guys, I actually missed that one. The correct answer was WPS, which is Wi-Fi protected setup. If this is improperly configured, it can be vulnerable to attacks. Brute forcing the PIN, as mentioned in this scenario, is one of the methods attackers may use to exploit the WPS feature. Disabling WPS or using a more secure method for setup is advisable. Then the default login credentials on the router makes it a lot easier for attackers to gain unauthorized access. Changing default credentials is a fundamental security practice. And I'll leave the rest of this information up for just a few seconds. A call center technician receives a call from a user asking how to update Windows. Which of the following describes what the technician should do? Here we can kind of play process of elimination because the iPad doesn't make any sense and the password texting to the technician doesn't make any sense. The correct answer is to have the user click in the search field and type check for updates. This is a standard user-friendly way to access Windows Update setting, and this allows the user to manually check for available updates and initiate the update process. I'll leave this page up for just a minute. Which of the following is the most important environmental concern in a data center? And this one's going to be humidity. Maintaining appropriate humidity levels is often considered the most important environmental concern inside a data center. Proper humidity control is crucial for preventing static electricity buildup and electrostatic discharge, which can potentially damage sensitive electronic components. Humidity levels that are too low can increase the risk of static electricity, while excessive humidity may lead to condensation and other issues. A user is unable to log in to the network. The network uses 802.1x with the EAP TLS to authenticate the wired network. The user has been on an extended leave and has not logged into the computer in several months. Which of the following is causing the login issue? For this one, it's going to be an expired or revoked certificate. If the user is not logged in for several months, it's possible that the digital certificate used for EAP TLS authentication has expired during the user's absence. And this is telling us here that this authentication method relies on digital certificates for user authentication. I'll leave this page up for a few seconds. Which of the following threats uses personalized information in an attempt at obtaining information? So this would be specific information, as we learned earlier, to help make the attack seem more believable or to help make the person more likely to give up information. So we call this spear phishing. I'll leave this up for a few extra seconds. A technician receives an invalid certificate error when visiting a website with port 443 enabled. Other computers on the same LAN do not exhibit this system. Which of the following needs to be adjusted on the workstation to fix the issue? And this one is going to be date and time. So an invalid certificate error while visiting a website with port 443 enabled is often related to the date and time settings on the workstation. These certificates have validity periods, and if the date and time on a computer are incorrect, it can lead to the perception that the certificate is expired or not yet valid. Which of the following utilities will rearrange the files on your hard disk to occupy contiguous chunks of space? We learned this earlier, and this is called disk defragmenter. We'll leave this up for a few seconds. Which power mode will write contents of the RAM to the disk? And this one is hibernate. When a computer enters hibernate mode, it saves the current state of the system, including the contents of the RAM, to the hard disk. This allows the computer to power off completely, and when it's powered on again, it can resume the hibernated state by restoring the saved information from the disk back into the RAM. This is particularly useful for saving energy while preserving open applications and documents. I'll leave this up for a few seconds to read the other options. Which partition style allows up to 2,000 volumes to be partitioned on a physical disk? And this one is dynamic disk. The dynamic disk partition style allows up to 2,000 volumes to be created on a physical disk. GUID partition tables allow up to 128 volumes. The master boot record, or MBR, and basic disk partitioning scheme are one and the same and allow up to 26 partitions. Which of the following commands listed below are used for resetting the DHCP configuration for all adapters in Microsoft Windows? This is going to be ipconfig release and renew. ipconfig/release. This command releases the current DHCP configuration for all adapters, essentially telling the DHCP server that the IP addresses are no longer in use. And the renew command requests the new DHCP configuration settings for all adapters, allowing the computer to obtain a new IP address from the DHCP server. And I'll leave this up for a few extra seconds. Which of the following is the default file system used in Windows? This is the new technology file system. Where is the notification area located in Windows? And this is within the System Properties dialog box. Actually, it was on the taskbar. I guess I wasn't entirely sure what it was asking there, so apologies for getting that one wrong. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish the test. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions about anything that we went over, Feel free to drop those in the comments below, and we'll get back with you as soon as we can. Again, if you're interested in purchasing genuine Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll leave those links down below. As our channel continues to grow, we're constantly looking for new video topic ideas to make. If you have specific videos that you'd like to see, we strongly encourage you to comment those down below. Most of our commented viewer requests get made into actual videos. Lastly, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated as it helps to support our channel. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next time.